I think it's now time to wrap up our final round, and the 2020 Bridge Alliance Summit is coming to the conclusion. Thank you for all the speakers so far, but do not click off at this time because we want to have a final round where all panelists can together share their thoughts and minds. So with that said, nobody better than Bridgehouse owns Kristen Whalen, the managing partner of Bridgehouse Law United States, is taking over now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you all to all the panelists and presenters who participated at this point. I just wanted to give everyone the opportunity now that we've gotten to hear about different options from all different countries, what your thoughts and takeaways were with regard to how your country's systems and options differ from one of the other countries that were presented on. So,
you know, what comes to my mind, if I just think about it, what I think is interesting is how good the rules are in the traditional immigration countries, so like the US and Canada, like this EB-5 program, how it's very well organized, it's perfectly structured. You have very good, you have strict rules. You stick to the rules, or you do not stick to the rules. You meet the conditions, then you're in. Even you have a number of you know, EB-5 visas that they give out, and when it's done for the year, it's done. So they are very experienced in this. And good old Europe, who always think, Europeans always think they are the best in everything, they don't have it at all. And as you see, it's a patchwork. What I had in my presentation, it's a patchwork of different rules. Sometimes you don't have rules at all. So if you look at Austria, for example, what is enough to invest in Austria? Nobody knows, and it's up to the government to decide it from case to case. So I think this is quite interesting to see how the different systems are set up, and that the Europeans are far behind in having, you know, kind of European rules for this.
How about we go to Julian, comparing your system to in Canada, to the US, or to Europe and Germany, or comparisons, takeaways that you had?
Well, there was something that Stefan said that kind of twigged for me, where he said that Europe has a patchwork of different immigration rules, and of course Canada does as well because of its federal system. You will have various provinces with different nominee programs whereby they try to attract immigrant investors to their particular jurisdiction. Of course, you could apply to the nominee program of Quebec and still reside in British Columbia, for example, after in keeping with the requirements of the Quebecois program. So there's a certain flexibility that we have in Canada, and it's one of the things that I suppose I see as a takeaway is that when you look at the Canadian system, it's always been predicated on a healthy degree of immigration. So you've got rules and regulations that have been tailored for that. The federal government used to have a more elaborate program that dealt strictly for immigrant investors, and that's been retrenched, and that's in fact been eliminated. But you do still have a system that's flexible, and that once people are able to arrive in Canada, you'll have all of the characteristics of what one would expect in a common law system available to that investor. There is, I suppose, a certain pull towards America that is always present. But for those who, you know, don't have necessarily doubts about the American system, or who aren't reacting to the present political circumstances in America, Canada is always a stable alternative, and that's something that I think has stuck in my mind as we've gone through the presentations today.
Excellent, thank you. And Reinhard, obviously we also have a federal system here in the US, like Julian mentioned, in Canada. Any thoughts to comparisons to the other systems that we saw?
I think, Stefan, you raised my intellectual curiosity about the aspect of how immigration countries versus non-immigration countries traditionally structure their law. And it's of course true, and thank you for bringing that up, that countries who are traditionally the countries where people are exiting make it different from those countries where traditionally people are entering. And if we take the exiting part of Europe and the entering part of the Americas, it makes sense that we have different rules here. And I feel, therefore, the American rules, and with that I mean now the US rules, are made in a way to have an immigration country. I remember years ago when I had a chance to be on a panel with folks from Mercedes-Benz with regard to their plant opening in Alabama. And there was the head of human resources who then shared the story how it was when Daimler Chrysler got integrated the other way around, and there are Chrysler folks entering into the Stuttgart market. And the story came up there that the Stuttgart market has, whatever many European countries have, the jurisdiction for those foreigners is located by the foreigners office. Or there is in certain European countries a special foreigners police, or somebody who's responsible to take care of those foreigners. Ausländeramt is one of those words which comes to my mind in German. And in the United States, the same authority is called immigration service. So here you have, just by terminology, an excluding word, whereas in one country you have an including word. And it's not about linguistics, it's about the thought behind. So in a way it's true, once you check the boxes, you are more likely to get in, and you're not subject to the feeling of a federal or state or local employee to say, I don't like this proposal, and therefore there's much more flexibility here. But taking this sentence from a philosophical point to a business point, the good news is that solidly made visa applications have a very high likelihood of approval. And that's, I think, the message out, even in today's Corona-driven immigration world where certain consulates are closed for months. And we are seeing right now visas being processed who got applied for in March, which is almost like a 6-month delay in visa processing just because of shutdown. Even though we see a slowdown in visa application right now, there is a principle behind, and I see that as an opportunity. When foreign investors would like to come to the United States, they can come here. What I like about the new NAFTA rules is that you are no longer required to have a residency or an operation in the other NAFTA country. So if you're coming from abroad, you look into the immigration system, you figure out Canada may be easier for this means than the United States is, or the other way around. You may see the United States is easier, but you still want to do business in Canada. It is not an either or. So what we have is within the NAFTA, former NAFTA market, Mexico, Canada, and United States, once you are incorporated in one country, you can operate in the other countries. And Stefan, from a European point of view, would appreciate that, what we call European Freizügigkeit, the ability to relocate businesses and enterprises, to relocate staff from one country to the other, is something which we have in Europe. So in a way, I'm looking forward for this new NAFTA 2.0, the USMCA opportunity to venture from one country to the other.
What is your advice today to the participants as far as 3 things that they should do today to prepare for that journey and for that trip, or to start on down that road of seeking citizenship or residency in one of your countries where you're licensed?
Well, I would check my numbers. I would talk to my family, and I would check with my business partners. I think, you know, you have a wide range. If you want to come to Europe, you have a wide range of opportunities, and it doesn't make any sense to make a decision where to go from the, you know, only from the immigration point of view. So if you have already existing business in parts of Europe, in the Spanish or Portugal part, you go there, and then you try to go there. And also it's important that you ask your family, because if you're really serious about living there for a special period of time, also your family must be fine with it. And so it's not only immigration issues that are the decision, or that are important. It's the business and primarily the family issue that is important. This is my advice. And then play it from there. So make your decision, set your priorities business-wise and family-wise, and then play it from there and try how you can organize it.
How about you, Julian? 3 things to do today if I want to pick up and move to Canada.
My advice would be to seek professional advice from the outset. I think a lot of planning should go into the decision, and you would want to have your advisors on board right from the get-go if you're well-heeled enough to be able to afford that from the outset. I mean, we're not just dealing with immigration advice, you're also dealing with issues that concern the transfer of wealth, and there may be, depending upon which jurisdiction you're in, withholding taxes that you have to deal with. So I think you should look at it in a global approach, and to deal with that, you want to get a team of advisors on your side right from the outset.
Very good. Excellent. Team of advisors. And of course, you have some well-versed attorneys here on this call, and then I'm sure we can point you in the direction of some nicely accredited accountants and tax advisors. Reinhard, if anyone wants to come to the United States and is ready to start that journey, what would be your takeaways for today?
I mean, my takeaways are America is a great country, and it is a great country for centuries, where the dream was for centuries, go to America. And when I look at my family history, a little letter written by my great-grandfather who talked about people leaving the countryside and moving to the villages. And he said, the smart people leave the countryside to go to the villages, but the real smart move to America. And I think the ability to attract talent is something which is unbroken over time. The 3 takeaways I have is plan and prepare. With plan and prepare, it means look into what it really takes, and the decision I want to leave today is very easy to be done tomorrow because it takes time. So plan and prepare is number 2. The second part I have is to differentiate between where the real decisions are made in a business setting. In a business setting, we all believe the decisions are made in the boardroom, but I have heard the comparison being made that the decision is really made in the bedroom, and some who would call it the decision is made in the dining room, depending on how you phrase it. The decision means it's made where the family needs to be involved. It boils down to schooling opportunities for children. It boils down to job opportunities for spouses. Just because one spouse wants to relocate, it doesn't mean that there's a job for the other spouse. Let's take about the regulated market. Your spouse is a doctor and practices medicine. Can this person move to the United States? And the quick answer is complicated because there are certain licensing requirements. So prepare also on the family level. And my third part is prepare for the unprepared, especially countries where things are so regulated and you can only imagine it in one way to be done. Prepare for that. When there is a left turn signal, you don't necessarily take a left turn because in this country it's customary to do that. And what is true for the traffic situations in certain parts of the world is also true for how business is done. And if you do not have the flexibility to be ready for the differences, for the different ways of doing things, if you're not ready for accepting that in one part of the world people decide to drive on the left side of the road and the other part of the world people drive on the right side of the road, for me it's indicative of a lack of mental openness to the world. And if you don't have the ability to be ready to drive literally on the wrong side of the road because it's right in that country, then you should stay where you are. But if you're ready to plan, prepare for the unprepared and get your family involved, you have opportunities not only in the United States, but also in Canada, China, Germany, or wherever it is, because people seem to like to migrate, and human history is full of migration, and we are in the 21st century certainly in the middle of migration.